I've got some huge Facebook news, and that's that we now have the new Facebook ads learning phase. It's very different from what we had previously, and now it means that we can rethink our entire approach to Facebook advertising. In this video, I'm going to explain what the new Facebook ads learning phase is and the adjustments that we can now make to our Facebook advertising strategy because of the new updates that Facebook is rolling out to the algorithm. My name is Gergo Mezes, the founder of OnceAdvertisements.com. We're a YouTube ads agency that specializes in helping e-com brands scale past 7 figures with YouTube, Google, and Facebook ads. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. All right, so before I go through the details of the new Facebook ads learning phase and compare it to obviously the previous one and explain what that means, I'm just going to super quickly explain what the Facebook ads learning phase actually is, because I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this video that don't know that. So the learning phase is basically once you launch a new Facebook ad campaign, it learns. It goes through something what's called the learning curve. And that's Meta's machine learning process, their AI, which is effectively trying to work out how to get you the best possible results based on what you ask for and the inputs that you've given. So let's say, for example, you're running a sales campaign that's optimizing for purchases. Assuming you've got your pixel set up correctly and all that, other necessary stuff ready, Meta can see who is buying your products based on your advertising and also who isn't. And they can actually use that information to adjust how your campaign is being delivered. And that's going to include things like within the targeting options that you've given, who should they actually put your ads in front of? Because there's probably going to be like a smaller subsection within your targeting options that produce the best results. So Meta's going to try and find those for you. And that's one of the things that they're doing in the learning phase. In addition, they're also going to work out how many impressions on average does each person need to convert and go ahead and become a lead or purchase or whatever your goal is. Now, is it 2 impressions? Is it 6 impressions? They're going to work all that stuff out. Is it better to spread your ad budget across a lot of people but quite thinly in terms of like impressions, like each person gets only 1 or 2 impressions but quite thin? Or is it better to concentrate those impressions like each person gets 6, 7 or 8 impressions but fewer people actually see your ads? They're going to work out things like what time of the day produces the best results, what day of the week produces the best results, and all that various elements going to working out how to get you the best results possible. And that's why it's so important to set up your campaigns in a way that Meta can actually understand what is that you want as an advertiser. Do you want leads? Do you want purchases? Do you want app promotions? Whatever it is that you really want. Because if Meta knows what you want, they can go ahead and then learn. The AI systems can learn and they can get you those things. So that's what the learning phase is designed to do. And it's really important because it helps all of us get much better results, but it's something that you just need to be aware of. Now, the learning phase happens when you launch a new campaign. However, it also happens after you make a significant adjustment to an existing campaign. So if, for example, you create a new ad to add into that campaign, even if you make an adjustment to an existing ad, if you change your targeting settings or your placement settings or any of the other major things at the ad set level, then that ad set will go back into the learning phase. And it's one of the reasons why people like me don't recommend that you make adjustments to your Facebook ad campaigns all the time, because if you're constantly in there just tweaking and adjusting things, then you're constantly going back into the learning phase, this period of experimentation, and you're unlikely to get the best results possible, simply because you're not allowing the algorithm to learn what you really want as a result. So for a long time, people like me have recommended that you want consistency with your ad campaigns, and yes, you want to be able to test things and adjust things, but you don't want to do it twice a day or maybe even every single day. You want to space those out, obviously depending on your conversion volume. So the old Facebook ads learning phase, the requirement to get out of the learning phase, the data that Meta really needed was 50 conversions within 7 days. Now, that's whatever conversions you're optimizing for, right? Like it can be sales, app purchases, traffic, whatever it is. So if you got like a sales campaign optimizing for purchases, then it's 50 purchases within that 7-day time period. But if you got a sales campaign optimizing for add to carts, then it's 50 add to carts. And that's what Meta wants to learn. Now, meeting that requirement, like getting those 50 conversions within 7 days, is just nearly impossible for some businesses, like particularly for those that are relatively small, like operating with a smaller budget, and they might be generating 5 or 10 conversions in a week. To be fair, this most often happens with like service-based businesses where they only work with like a few customers which are really like high value, and their lead flow is never going to get to 50 leads a week, like realistically, or at least until they're massively scaled. And what happens then is that the campaign wouldn't get out of the learning phase and it would be stuck in something called the learning limited. And you would see this alongside your ad sets, and a lot of advertisers would freak out about that. They think, well, my campaign hasn't got the data to get the results that I'm looking for and they're just stuck in learning limited. You know, obviously that isn't ideal. You want Meta's really powerful AI systems and machine learning programs to be on your side. You want them to do all the things that we've already discussed in this video around helping you advertise at the right time of the day, to the right type of people, to the right amount of times, and all this sort of stuff to get you the best results possible. And if it's saying learning limited, it's not able to do that efficiently. So that's been one of the big challenges for advertisers with the learning phase to actually get out of it, particularly true for smaller businesses, as I mentioned, trying to get past learning limited and getting their ad campaigns to, you know, the point where it says active. And that left advertisers with a bit of a dilemma because, you know, you could either operate with, let's say, like 20 leads a week and not get out of the learning phase and be stuck in learning limited, but optimizing for what you really want, which is lead, it usually would be my recommendations, to be honest, because you know, you could start to think,
well, maybe I should change what I'm optimizing for because I'm only getting 20 leads a week, but I'm getting more than 50 landing page views a week, so I should, you know, instead go for landing page views and optimize for landing page views, and that will get me out of the learning phase.
And that might be true, but you might see worse overall results because you're not optimizing for what you really want, which would be leads in this example. So if you're doing that, Meta's putting together all that brain power that it's got, its AI power, into getting you as many landing page views as possible instead of as many leads as possible, which often doesn't produce better results, you know, even if it did help you get out of the learning phase. So that's why it left advertisers in a super difficult situation because they don't know what they should do about this. Now, the new learning phase is really quite different. So instead of needing 50 conversions in a week, Meta is now saying it's 10 conversions within 3 days. Now, obviously generating 10 conversions in 3 days is a lot easier than generating 50 conversions in a week. And you know, with this, you can operate with a smaller budget. And yes, it's a shorter time frame, but the number of conversions needed is much less as well. And it's just still much easier for advertisers to achieve. Now, that means that we can make some adjustments as Facebook and Instagram advertisers. So if you had before decided to optimize for something higher up the funnel, so if you think about the top of funnel being like a link click, and then you go down and you have like initiate checkout, and then, you know, add to cart, and then purchase. And, you know, hopefully this makes sense in terms of the progression here. Now, if you wanted to optimize for, let's say, purchases down below, but, you know, you just couldn't generate 50 conversions in a week and you thought, I just can't do this, I'm going to have to go for something higher up the funnel, and, you know, like an add to cart or initiate checkout, or maybe even just like a link click right at the top. But now, because the requirement is much less to get out of the learning phase, you may now be able to go for a conversion event that's lower down the funnel. And we know that that's good because if you can do that, that means that Meta is going to be optimizing for what you really want, and you're likely to get better results. You might not be generating 50 conversions in a week, but you might be generating 25 conversions in a week. Well, as long as you get 10 within 3 days, then you're fine. You're completely fine. And you can go ahead and, you know, optimize for purchase conversion event. And obviously the same principle is going to apply with lead campaigns or other campaign types, as you may now optimize for things lower down the front, like, you know, purchases, and you don't have to go all the way to link clicks just to reach the amount of conversion events needed to get out of the learning phase. Now, it also means that you might be able to make changes more frequently to your ad campaigns. Now, I've said this to people, look, as a general rule of thumb, don't make adjustments to your campaigns more than once every 7 days, because you've roughly had this 7-day learning phase window. Now, of course, for a lot of advertisers, if you're, you know, generating a large conversion volume, you got through the learning phase much faster, and some businesses are generating smaller conversion volume, needing to wait longer than 7 days to be able to make a call on, you know, whether an ad is working or not. Because if you only generate a few conversions a week, then, you know, how would you know if an ad is working after 7 days? You just don't. But anyways, the same principle is now applied, but you're going to shorten the time frame. So instead of the general rule of thumb of not making any adjustments within that 7 days, with those caveats I mentioned, now we can say that don't make adjustments more often than 3 days. Again, you know, with the caveats I mentioned before. There's still going to be businesses that generate 10 conversions in an afternoon, and you're going to go through the learning phase really quickly. And then there are going to be businesses that generate smaller conversion volume that need to wait much longer to make adjustments to their ad campaigns to know if an ad works or not. But I do think in general, with this change, that's one of the big things that's going to help Facebook advertisers being able to condense that time period so that you can get through, you know, more tests, more iterations of new ads, targeting options, whatever it is that you're looking to test quicker. And it's obviously going to help us get much better results overall in the long run, because you're going to learn and Meta's going to learn, and those things are really, you know, just a big shift that we can make based on this adjustment to the learning phase. And as you can see from this video, it's obviously really important to stay up to date with the latest changes when it comes to Facebook and Instagram advertising if you want the best results possible. Now, the best way for me to help you with this stuff is through my free community dedicated to help you grow with advanced digital marketing. You have the chance to ask all your questions, as you have direct access to me and my team to work on resolving your issues. Now, if you're interested, you can find the link in the description below, and hope to see you inside. So before you run off and go crazy with your Facebook ad campaigns things and start making loads of changes, it's important for me to say that stability is still an important factor that hasn't changed. And yes, you might be able to make changes more often, but you still want to try and keep things consistent and stable. If you're constantly switching between different campaign types, adding things in and, running a split test here and there, and adding new things and adding new ads and making little tweaks multiple times a day, your ad campaigns are going to be suffering and your results are going to be suffering as well. But anyways, there's the former learning phase that has been changed significantly, but it's also worth noting that we know that Facebook ad campaigns continue to learn after the learning phase. So yes, under the previous learning phase, you might have generated 100 conversions in a week. You might be, nicely out of the learning phase, but once you've generated, let's say 1,000 conversions total, your ad campaigns will probably perform better than, when you've generated only 100 conversions. And once they generate, let's say 5,000 conversions, they generate better results than when you were just generating 1,000 conversions a week, because Meta continues to learn. It continues to compound. Obviously, like with anything in life, just like when you're learning a new skill, right? Like the most intense learning period is in the beginning, because you have no idea what you're doing whatsoever at a hyper speed. But you do something, you carry on, you keep learning, you keep getting better at it, maybe not at the same pace, but you're still improving things. So stability and being able to just increase overall conversion numbers within your ad account, I think is still really important and still going to help your ad campaigns. Also, this new learning environment, this learning phase is a new feature. It's only available in just some of our ad accounts right now. And that's why I grabbed like screenshots to show you within the video, because the learning phase stuff disappears like obviously as the campaign learns. So I just wanted to grab, screenshots to be able to show you. And I imagine a lot of people watching this video at this point don't have it yet. So from what I've heard, this is like to be rolled out, and it does make sense, because for a while now we've been seeing Facebook ad campaigns get out of the learning phase, even if they don't met the criteria like 50 conversions in 7 days. You can see because it says alongside your ad set like learning phase, and then it just you go active once you're out of it. But we've been seeing it happen that the campaigns much sooner get out of the learning phase, with not reaching the 50 conversions in 7 days. So we kind of think that some behind the scenes stuff has been happening a little bit along these lines, but anyway, just the fact that Meta is making this official and we're seeing it now in the ad accounts is great. But you might not have this yet, but just be aware of that. If you're going to go dive in and start making changes and things along those lines quickly, maybe you want to hold off until you see this sort of like message pop up in your ad account. From what we've seen so far, there's not many additional information in Meta's support docs for advertisers. Normally when they make changes like this, they will release something maybe between when I record this and actually the time that it gets published, they will come out. But as of the time recording, we haven't got that yet. But I think once they roll it out to everyone, this normally one will see some documentation around it and some information that we know that it's here to stay. But this is just something to be aware of, that you may have this or may not in your ad account. So don't just immediately jump into adjustments and things I recommended, because you might not actually have this just yet. This is a super good example of AI making things easier for advertisers, making the situation better for advertisers. Meta's AI is getting smarter and smarter, and it's just better getting us results that we want. And clearly they've worked out that they can learn with less data. Obviously that's a smarter system being able to do that, because advertisers don't need to operate with a large budget to get out of the learning phase. They can test smaller and they can optimize to slow down the funnel. They can make adjustments to all the good stuff we've talked about in this video so far. But I think that this is a trend we're going to see continue, that Meta's AI and machine learning programs are getting smarter and smarter. More and more stuff is going to be automated. More, setting type stuff is going to be improved automatically by what Meta can do, which is fantastic. It allows us advertisers to crack on what really matters, like offers, put together the products and services, the ads themselves, the copy and the creatives. And those would be the main focus, and those would be the areas where you would also gain your competitive advantage as well. So if you made it this far in this video and you're an e-commerce brand owner wanting to work with a paid ads partner on Meta, Google, and YouTube, click the link down below and book in a call with one of our dedicated representatives at onceadvertisements.com, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.